Welcome everyone to our 2021 webinar series. This will be a series of several meetings on the vacation rental industry, specifically, of course, for our Cape and Islands region. We were just talking a few minutes ago how we'd love to be back in person doing these. There will be a time, of course, that we'll be able to do these again in person, and we do plan to do so, but I think like all businesses, the pandemic has changed the way many businesses are run, including ours. And so I envision that we'll be doing these virtual meetings forever as well. It's just a great opportunity for us to connect. I feel like over the last couple of years, we've created our own new rental community here with you all and see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces. And so look forward to engaging with you during this session and in our next series of meetings over the next few weeks. Today I have with me, we have Joan Talmadge, owner, and for what, 24 years, I believe. We have we have Elizabeth or Beta Whedon on the homeowner team, who many of you, if not all, have spoken to at one point or another. And she has been with us for 13 and a half years. So that makes me, Jim Reese, the newbie. So I've been here for 11 years. So a lot of experience on our end in the vacation rental industry. So hopefully we have a few tips or insights for you to help you through the next season. Our agenda today, we're going to look back, of course, look back onto 2021 and look ahead to the following 2022 season that's already in progress. And obviously the biggest topics and what is on everybody's mind is just kind of what are the changes that are happening? How are things changing, not just through the pandemic, but what's going to change or what's going to remain the same and what's going to maybe revert back, if anything. And then with all these changes that the pandemic has created, how do we adapt? How do we remain successful? We will go over a few of those suggestions. So looking back first, we've completed almost, we're here in the fall, so many of you still are renting and still are successfully renting through, even probably through the holidays, but another large portion of you have probably wrapped up your season entirely. We're here at the end of the last two seasons, and the last two seasons, despite the pandemic, have really brought on record demand. These have been the busiest seasons for us of our 24-year history. I'm sure for many of you, and we've heard from many of you, that they've been your most successful seasons. And so what we're looking at is that, as we went into the 2021 season, there was a lot of uncertainty. There was uncertainty after getting through a successful summer the season before in 2020, and then all of a sudden the virus started to increase again in the Northeast during the fall into the winter. There's just a lot of uncertainty around what sort of pandemic restrictions would still come into play. What do you as homeowners need to do? The concerns over whether they be cancellations and insurance and vacationers' ability to travel, all that came about during 2020, that was still there. But by the time February, March rolled around, what we started to see was, the outlook had improved. The vaccines had come out and the demand really kicked it up even another notch. If that was even possible, we definitely saw it. So the positive outlook, we had one season of 2020 with the pandemic under our belt. I think people, both homeowners and vacationers, went into the next season pretty confident and knowing what to expect. But now that we're dealing with all of that demand, and we keep talking about the demand because it really was record-breaking, what we're looking at, and I have this quote here, saw this from an industry expert on a VRM Intel article, talking about just how the vacation rental industry was far and away the leader when it comes to the travel industry. When the pandemic hit, the vacation rentals, the short-term vacation rental industry was the one to bounce back, and not just bounce back the quickest, but really take off from there. And so we don't want to be sitting here and saying, what's going to happen when the pandemic fully subsides? What is travel going to look like? what is the vacation rental industry going to look like? Are we just going to revert back to the way things were before? And the way we want to be looking at it here is that this isn't the ceiling for us. This isn't where we don't want to think of this as like the glory days of the vacation rental industry. I think it's really an opportunity for all of us to take really what I'll talk a lot about is new vacationers, new interest in the vacation rental industry, and really use that for your benefit to start to build your vacation rental business, build your repeat vacationers, build up your guest reviews, and really use that as the next step to increasing the success of your rental businesses. And I was thinking about, we don't want to be sitting here in 5 years from now and say, remember those times when, it was during the pandemic when you could raise your prices without blinking an eye, or you could not worry about a cancellation because it booked the next day. Some of those things surely are going to relax a little bit. You're not going to be able to just raise the prices the way we've done over the last couple of years. And certainly have to, cancellations are not going to come as quick, but I do think that the demand here, the interest in vacation rentals in comparison to hotels, especially in the Cape and Islands, is really going to strengthen the short-term rental industry for us. So I'm back on that quote. I talked about the envy of the travel business is short-term rentals. And so what kind of drove that? Not just the speed of recovery it was the booking rates and the occupancy levels were very, very high for everyone. And so what led to some of that draw, as many of you know, especially here for the Cape and Islands, we are in a tourist area that is in driving distance for many, many folks from all across the country. Obviously, majority of people come from the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, but even stretching beyond that, I'm sure many of you did have vacationers in the Mid-Atlantic over the years, since they're as well in driving distance. People during the pandemic have focused on opportunities to not just clearly to gather with friends and families, but to do so outside, to focus on the outdoor activities, to focus on whether it be outdoor experiences that the Cape offers, beaches, boating, hiking, and so forth, or outdoor experiences that they can have at your rentals, the outdoor space that we talk about all the time, the patio space, porch, whatever you may have, or just even a yard that you can open up and make it entertaining, relaxing, anything you can do. It's an area where our vacationers are spending more and more time. And then of course, the ultimate and one of the number one reasons that many people favor the short-term rentals is, and during this pandemic, has been the privacy, control of the environment. They didn't have to worry about sharing space in a common area of a hotel. It was their space spread out. They know that once they're there, they could control that environment. Obviously, once the pandemic subsides, that isn't as much of a concern, but what does remain is, of course, the privacy. People do love the privacy and be able to just settle into their own space. I'm going to take a look at the demand, and you've seen charts like this before. Here's the current latest chart, and it clearly shows the 2 past years that are the outliers here, and showing the demand that has been well above previous years, looking back, say, 6 years here. And so we see the first year of the pandemic in blue with the spike that occurred during June and July that you're all familiar with. And then it never really let down. So coming into the green line here, we have the pandemic, the levels just were well above 2016 through 2019. We see the peak that occurred here in March. They really haven't let down. They didn't have the spike that we saw the year before, but they really were, each month was setting records over the previous years. And right about now, I'd say even September for 2021 has been a little busier than last year. And I'd say we might be on par for that again in October. So it is going to lead likely to another busy season. Those of you that have not entered your rates yet, I'm sure Joan will talk about a little bit about that, but the demand and the interest for early booking is clearly still there. The other piece is new vacationers. So this was a huge component that we've been watching over the last couple of years, and this is where new visitors. So we've been watching new visitors to our website. We even had more visitors this year than last year, and we had significantly more if you compare it to the pre-pandemic years. The most important thing that we look at is how many vacationers have actually inquired, and that too, we're seeing an 84% jump this year to date versus the pre-pandemic year. This is in new vacationers, new to our site. They've never used our site, they've never inquired, and so this is a whole new. I'm talking in terms of the volume. You know, it's tens of thousands of vacationers that have never used our site before, and they've come to use our site and over the last 2 years. So for us, what we're looking for is to utilize that group and bring them, where it's our job to bring them back to our site. We want to make sure that they have the best user experience on our website so that they will come back and find one of your homes, of course. We can't assume that kind of the demand to this degree is going to be there, but even scaling back a little bit, there are going to be just a lot of interest in your homes, but we can't assume that these vacationers are going to come back that unless they have a great guest experience. And that's where you as hosts come in to ensure that you have given your vacationers a great guest experience. Again, Joan and Beta will talk about the repeat vacationer, but your ultimate goal is always to try to find that repeat vacationer. But even if they don't repeat, there's different reasons why somebody may enjoy the experience at your home and not be able to come back the following year. But if they have a great experience, that's going to lead to them returning to vacation rentals over and over again. Our goal is to convert them to long-time vacation rental travelers and not return to say the alternative lodging establishments. I'm going to shift for a moment to pricing because many folks are pricing. This is the one portion of pricing that we're going to touch upon that was quite interesting that we looked up. And there are two sets of percentages here. And what we were looking at is that, not surprisingly, the price increase coming into the 2021 season, we saw 4 to 5% increase on average across each of these regions. And then for the first time ever, the second number below shows that there actually was an increase during the season. So as we hit the summer, we always watch the pricing and see, does the price come down? Are people opening up the price? And clearly this summer, with the demand so high, there was no need to offer price reductions. If you had a cancellation, you didn't have to offer it back up at a reduced rate. You could put it back up and you probably got the same rate, if not better. And so what we saw for the first time ever was that every region was increasing their prices even as we got into the summertime. Again, that may not be something that holds. That if I was to say, if there's one thing that probably would not hold year over year, it's going to be that. It's just, as clearly as you get into last minute bookings, if the demand is not as high and you get anxious, you're going to likely need to reduce your rate. But something certainly we'll continue to monitor on that. On pricing,
Jim, something. Sorry, just clarify that it's not that the prices will necessarily go down, it's that the rate of increase won't keep up at the same pace. Isn't that what you mean? That the rates aren't necessarily going to go down. It's just that they're not going to keep growing the way they have. Have I misunderstood that?
No, I think you're right. Yeah. So we do have a more in-depth look at pricing. Actually, next week, next Thursday, we're going to do a deep dive on pricing analysis and provide some more insight on this. So looking ahead, as I do want to get through a few more of these slides before I turn it over to Beta and Joan, look ahead to what do we foresee for the next year. Actually, I do have one more thing on the pricing. So it's kind of forecasting what do we expect for next year for pricing, and what we did already is, if many of you took the survey, we had about 600 respondents to the survey last month, and 71% of folks have said that they have or they plan to raise their rates. So many of you feel confident in the rates that you had, and you're looking forward to increasing those a bit. It's not to say that if you haven't, that you should. Yeah, obviously, there are many factors that go into whether you should raise your rates. And that's part of the reason that Joan and Beta will go into more depth next week on this. But it is a strong sign to show that, knowing that we've increased prices over the last couple of years, we've caught up on the lodging tax hit, and you're able to increase the prices again. The fact that you're increasing them yet again, we'll see how those fare in the next booking season. Speaking of bookings, we're looking at the booking numbers, and these are early booking numbers. These are comparing the summer 2022 to last year. So these are advanced bookings for next summer as of last week. And what we're seeing, these booking numbers were honestly hard to believe at first, but I think that there are just a lot of repeat bookings, and I think there's a lot of new business still coming in. And so again, this will be something that Beta and Joan touch upon on the repeat booking, but the demand is there. Vacationers last summer, or preparations for last summer, many vacationers found a hard time finding a rental. And you can imagine, maybe over the last 2 years. So imagine those families that want to plan a yearly vacation and they realize they've just struck out. They booked too late. If they booked past March last year, we're likely settling for a home. So many people are realizing that we got to do this in advance. And so I would expect that early bookings continue to rise. Even though we're in a slower period of October here, it is higher than in previous years. And I would expect that to continue into the holiday season. And then lastly, on my section here, what we'll see is a few things. And one is the supply of short-term rentals. We saw a dip in the supply or the inventory of rentals, or the inventory of weeks that were available, partially because of the pandemic. Some folks decided to not rent during a certain part of the year, during the summer at all. Some people decided to only rent a week or two every other week, or some decided to rent to long-term instead and not deal with the weekly turnovers. So we're starting to see that there's an increase in supply, and while that means more competition, in combination with the demand levels, I don't think that'll be a major impact to you homeowners seeing that. The demand is still going to stay above the pre-pandemic levels. The demand is going to be high. We've seen, like I mentioned before, the level of new vacationers coming to the site. That's going to continue, and we'll continue to pull them back. Lastly, but one of the most important items on here is just the vacationer experience, and what their vacationer expectations are. And it really is a loaded topic. There's a lot to cover in that, so it's not going to all be covered today. But as you have these, especially back to the new vacationers coming for the first time, what do they expect? I'm sure they were demanding. Some of you had guests that were demanding this year, and maybe had demands that didn't exist before. The industry is evolving, and vacationers they just have high demands. And it doesn't mean you need to take all the measures necessary, but you are in the travel industry and ensuring that they have the best experience possible to return. And so I think I'll leave some of that for Joan and Beta to cover, just about what the vacationers, what their mindset is, and how their habits have changed and how that impacts you. So I think, Beta, am I turning it over to you?
Oh,
To
to
Joan.
me.
Joan. All right.
Well, hi. I think I will go through some of my slides fairly quickly, because Jim has already covered some of the points and covered them well. So, but we've just, as he said, we've seen a tremendous increase in popularity in short-term vacation rentals in the last couple of years. The word is out. People have decided that vacation rentals are a great option. They're safe. They provide a kitchen for dining at home. And certainly during COVID and even this past summer, the restaurants, for the most part, were just crazy busy, couldn't keep up. And I think, you know, it could be an exercise in frustration, especially if you had children. So many more people were choosing to stay in a home where they could cook at home, eat, you know, on their patio or their porch or deck, and just feel, you know, like they were really relaxed and having a good vacation. They're also staying closer to home. They weren't in the last couple of years, even this past winter and spring, they weren't necessarily going away, hopping on a plane, taking a cruise, or going, you know, to Disney World. So the, you know, vacation rentals on the Cape and Islands were a great choice. And they're better value than hotels, especially for families with children. There are no public spaces there that people have to worry about. And if they have a pool, you know, it was strictly for the use of the people, the guests staying in the house rather than shared. And it's ideal for longer stays, especially for people who were working there and working out of their rental home, and which many were working remotely. So what's changed? The inventory decreased, and as the demand soared. The lodging tax in 2019 and COVID kept some homeowners from renting their homes. And then many homeowners chose to stay at home, especially if they were renting out their primary home and staying elsewhere or visiting family. They weren't doing that, so they didn't rent their home this past year. So we expect many of them to come back. And of course, along with the demand, the rental prices rose, as Jim said, and many people hadn't significantly, if at all, raised their prices in the last 2 years. During the lodging tax, you know, year 2019, that was a significant rise in the price that the vacationers had to pay, and most homeowners didn't feel that they could really raise their prices then. And then this past year, you know, they did feel more comfortable, but I think now they really do. And you know, it's the homeowners' expenses have certainly gone up. The especially cleaning costs have really risen, and I don't see them going down anytime soon. So I think homeowners feel justified in increasing their prices. Longer stays is another thing that has changed, of course, and families might be taking only one vacation in this past year or 2 years, and so they might have chosen to take 2 weeks on the Cape or Islands, or even really did not have it didn't have the impact that we thought. But you know, it was very challenging for homeowners. They, as far as the increased hot spells, people got complaints from their guests about inadequate ventilation or AC, and then when there was a threat of a hurricane, they got requests for cancellation. So there's a lot to deal with for homeowners with these weather changes. Their habits, they tend to be more demanding. We heard during that survey that Jim mentioned, 40% of homeowners said that they felt that the vacationers seemed to be more concerned about cleanliness, and they were 12% said that they were less tolerant of minor issues. And I think part of this is increased prices. Vacationers feel I'm paying more and therefore their expectations have risen as well. And vacationers who are new to the short-term rental market may not be as accustomed to staying in a home as they are in a hotel or at a resort, where there's more consistency. When people stay at a Hilton or a Holiday Inn, for instance, they kind of know what to expect. A home is unique, and not all of them are brand new, so they might have idiosyncrasies. It's just, you know, it might have been their first experience staying in a home that, you know, belongs to someone else. Deeper use of the home, especially if they're staying longer and they're spending more time at the home, they're cooking at home more. So I think many of you feel that there's more wear and tear on your home. Vacationers are also working on vacation, and so they're also, you know, spending more time right there, and then they tend to have more requests to make of the homeowner. And as Jim said, they are booking earlier. There was such a frenzy in the last couple of years that I think that people realized I better book my home early, because I have not, you know, I missed out this past year. And the season is extending. We're seeing both spring and fall, but fall in particular. The beautiful fall weather certainly helps. The fact that the Cape and Islands are still very busy. Even last weekend, a long weekend, was, I thought, looking very busy. And there are just a lot of people still coming. Many homeowners told me that they were booked solid until mid or late October, and that's unusual. And the repeat guests, I think that there was so much uncertainty during COVID, and then even in this last year, that finding a home, feeling comfortable there, many guests just feel like, I'd like to go back there again. I had a good experience. It's, you know, it worked well, and I just feel comfortable. And as one guest said in a guest review, I've found my forever home. And so we are seeing that people feel that it's it's something that they could go back to year after year, and especially in the smaller homes. Larger homes, not so much, because if they're in a large home for a family reunion or a special event, they're not likely to make a habit of going back year after year. So I think I will turn it over to Elizabeth.
Hi, everybody. Congratulations on the completion of another year. And I can say certainly with great confidence, a successful year for pretty much everybody, I would assume. It's great to have it over, but it was really just those traffic numbers, the booking numbers, I mean, everything. What fun to work at weneedvacation.com this year. I mean, not that it isn't always fun, but the numbers just, as Jim said, were almost unbelievable. We just look at these numbers, gee whiz, you know, how can they be so outrageous? But we want to make sure this isn't a flash in the pan. What can you all do to continue the success, not have this just be, as Jim said, looking back, oh, remember those halcyon years during the pandemic when we all did so well? And how can we respond to some of those changes that both Jim and Joan have pointed out? The industry has changed. We don't know whether some of them are going to be permanent, whether they're going to stick around or not, but we're pretty confident that many of these are at least here through next summer. So let's even just take one season at a time. It starts with, let's just talk about some of the simple things that you can do Joan talked about and Jim talked about how more people are staying home and they're not eating out as much. They're using your kitchen. I'm not asking you, we're not suggesting that you remodel your entire kitchen, obviously, but there's so many things if your kitchen is really fully equipped as most of us say it is. You know, there are different levels, but whether there's small appliances that you can add, you know, if they're cooking in, maybe they're cooking some lobsters. Do you have lobster pops and those little cracker things? You know, just little things in the kitchen to make it not just a quick, simple rental, but something where it's almost really like their home and they can enjoy a big family or friends meal. And outside as well as in, you know, if your grill, your charcoal grill is kind of old and needs an upgrade, this is the time to do it. You want to have that whole dining experience at home just so much more enjoyable for them. The other thing, in addition to eating at home more, people are just there and you want to keep them entertained, right? It's again that experience, that guest experience, just very simply without spending a ton of money, both indoors and outdoors. Indoors, you can do things like, of course, many of you already provide games and puzzles and those kind of things. If you can, gee, wouldn't a ping pong table be nice? I mean, not all of us have room for something like that, but if you have a basement, for example, it doesn't have to be fancy, but where kids can play, do something like that, even a smaller foosball table or something. Outside, again, very simple things. I'm one of the favorite corn, you know, where you toss the things. Cornhole, thank you. I'm telling a big favor, I can't remember the name, but horseshoes or just anything outside. A lot of people these days, I'm sure you've heard about, many of you have bought and installed a fire pit. You know, really nice way for families to just sort of hang out without having to go to a public place. I think in the chat room, Lauren and Tori may be posting something about that. You just be real careful about fire pits and some of the risks that you take. Know what you're getting into with those, but you get the idea. You want them to be really happy in your home, and you don't have to have a fancy granite countertop kitchen home, but there's so many simple little things that you can buy to enable them to really have fun together as a family. Another thing, as Joan mentioned, unfortunately, a lot of people are taking vacation, but they're actually working, having to work on vacation. I know I often do, frankly. And it's so nice. I see a lot of you homeowners. I look at your listings and in the caption, I'll notice that it'll say work area, you know, and it's just a little, you don't have to add a room to your house, but just segregate a little area that they can work at comfortably and hopefully quietly, maybe a little bit away from the others or something. And, you know, along with that, if make sure your internet connection is strong and it's got, you know, high speed, so that people can work fine from home, from your home as well. And then this is a little bit more costly. Well, I was just going to say, Jim, back about the installing modern devices. The technology nowadays is just amazing. I'm just so impressed with the different things. They're not always cheap or free or easy to install, but some of these smart devices, it's basically making your home smart. There's something called smart lock. Jim was talking the other day to me about how, you know, what an annoying experience for a vacationer to get locked out. You know, their first time arriving at your home and they can't figure out how to get in. Some of these smart lock things where you can dial it in on your phone, you give them each of your guests has their own access to your house. You can shut it off. They can't get in early. I mean, we get complaints every year from homeowners that say, oh, and they showed up early and so forth. Well, they can't get in your home early if you haven't given them the code yet or something. So, you know, I'm old and sort of set in my ways and not on the top of technology in many ways, but boy, I'm really impressed with some of these new devices. Minute we've we've had a whole, at least, yeah, we had a whole, was it last winter, I think, a Zoom talk about, do you have a minute? I love that. Talking about monitoring your home, smart monitors to check the temperatures and even the sound level in your home and those kind of things. And finally, just smart TVs. Many new listings that I'm seeing now don't even offer cable TV. I'm not necessarily recommending that, but I'm just saying most younger vacationers now are used to streaming they want to watch. So if you've got an old TV, it's kind of time, most of you don't, but I think if there are any, it's time to upgrade them to smart devices where they can download what they want and stream whatever they want to see. I do want to spend just a minute talking about our amenities, the amenities that you all offer, and it's the amenities that you offer versus what vacationers search for, or the opposite, what they search for. And so it's a little dense, but I just want to quickly show you that if you look, you'll see that the top 5 amenities, most searched for amenities, actually are not things that you can really change once you bought your house. Or I'm sorry, not the top 5, but the 4 out of the 5. They have to do with location, with your proximity to the beach or the water. Tied for 4th is air conditioning at 29%. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention, you have to be a little careful with these numbers. They're not necessarily, of the people who come to our site want walk to a beach. It's just a lot, and especially this year, a lot of vacationers just put in the basic search criteria of where they want to go, the dates that they want, and the size of the home. That's pretty much what they need in order to use the search. There is, as you may or may not know, there's an advanced options where you can enter these other criteria. Keep in mind that if you put in AC or a swimming pool or any of those other amenities, that search is only going to return properties that have that. So particularly what I'm getting at is, particularly in a season like we just had, where there was such low inventory, people weren't being too picky. I mean, they wanted to be, but they weren't able to find much that, certainly if they waited too late, that was walk to beach, for example, or on a beach, and that kind of thing. Just quickly to go back to take a look at air conditioning, that's something where it doesn't look like that many. It is tied for 4th. It is the first non-location related amenity, the most popular one. What's really interesting is the number of homeowners. I mean, it still is a fair amount. And again, keep in mind that people really like air conditioning. It doesn't mean that they aren't interested in having a home that's air conditioned. In some cases, they kind of assume that it's air conditioned, which is a problem. If you don't have it, you got to make sure your guests realize that. But it is something that even if they don't search for it, they're gonna, if they're comparing your home to another, as you can see in the stat here, 77% of our homeowners now offer air conditioning. That's high. That's risen so much in the last few years, and we're seeing it's continuing to rise. In that survey we did, we asked if people were raising their rates, and we also asked, because this obviously affects the rate, did you make any capital improvements to your home? And in something like 2 out of 3 cases, I mean, a lot of times, if they did, when they said yes, they had made some capital improvements, it included adding air conditioning. Air conditioning is better for the maintenance of your home, and it is something, again, even if vacationers don't search for it, that they do. You all know that they really do care about. Just a couple of other things I wanted to mention just quickly. 28% of the survey respondents, 28% of vacationers requested pets that wanted to bring their pet, but only 20% of homeowners allow them. We all kind of know that, right? There's a really strong demand for pets. We're not suggesting that you allow them, but we just want you to know that there is, you can see that, the pet's not there anyway. I'll take my word for it. They're in greater demand than most of us are willing to provide. So People who do allow pets, I've heard, and I've always been the same. We feel like we can rent our home out a few times over because we allow pets, but so that wasn't too surprising. Only 2% of our homes include pools, but 12% of inquiries search for them. It's, fairly high. We all kind of know that. We also know we can't really add a pool, but that was kind of an interesting thing that I noticed.
So Beta, just to interrupt here, I think we have a lot of information here. This is just the tip of the iceberg on the amenities. I think we will come out with a more in-depth report that you can digest on your own, and we'll come up with a few more highlights. That and the survey. Similarly, we will be distributing that around with some of our thoughts on the survey. So there's more to come on this. Beta, we only have about 5 minutes left of your presentation.
Oh,
so
wow.
Okay. I think a few of your slides we're going to have to skip over, and we can certainly move a couple of these portion topics to next week's presentation, or the second one after that. Take a look at the next set of slides, but let's try to keep it to maybe 5 minutes.
Okay, good. Basically, I want to tell you that we keep talking about the all-important guest experience, and I want to say that it is not necessarily dependent on these real objects that we've just talked about, amenities. Really more about their overall happiness in your home. So to speak to that, we all have to kind of manage a little differently, maybe. So what I want to do is respond to a couple of things that Joan mentioned. The greater wear and tear. People not going out, they're staying in your home. You should just expect greater wear and tear. It's not that you can't withhold your security deposit and that kind of thing. I'm not saying that, but just, I think many of you may have noticed that your home is just going to be used and abused a little bit more than usual, especially in the kitchen, as I mentioned. The vacationers are booking earlier. We'll get your pricing availability in your calendar. In the survey, 25% of the respondents said that they had already updated their calendars much earlier than they usually do. Again, I won't get into all these numbers, and it's not worth it, but the takeaway is people are looking now for next year. If you don't have your pricing and availability in there, you're missing out, because there are just so many people looking, and they're willing to get top dollar right now. So a lot of people said they just hadn't gotten around to it. Get around to it. Get your calendars filled out. Responding quickly and consistently to every inquiry that you get. You've all hopefully heard by now that within a few weeks, by sometime next month in November, we are going to be, the listing rating will impact the sort order in our search results. So, your response time and your response rate, that's responding to inquiries, weighs heavily in that listing rating process. We will have a deep dive session coming up on the 26th of October, where we'll be talking more about that. I want to emphasize to so many of you that get worried about this, that we're not rating your home. We're not rating your property. We're rating your listing, okay? And its ability to accurately advertise, promote your home. And things like how quickly and how often you respond to inquiries are a big, huge part of that. So again, we'll be hearing more about that. Communicate. I mean, every time I've talked to you guys, I mention about communication. All I can say is that during a pandemic, it's never more important. It builds trust, dispels anxieties. People are anxious still, even though things are getting better. They're anxious about cleanliness and their safety, just about things in general. The communication really helps dispel some of that and avoids misunderstandings, shows you care, and don't just point out things, where things are in your house or where to shop or eat or something. Show empathy, tell them that you're concerned, whether it's talking about cleanliness in the home, safety, weather events, as Joan talked about, how your home is well, I'll talk about that in a minute. Speaking of weather events, as Joan mentioned, unfortunately, we have always had some worry about them, but it's really important that you are prepared. I say that like, oh, duh, you know, shouldn't everybody be? Aren't we all? But I'm not really. You know, we haven't really had a major hit of a hurricane in a long since Hurricane Bob was the last one I really remember. That was 20 something years ago. Be prepared. Think about what if one came up tomorrow, or you know, more for next year. But so make sure you are prepared, your home is prepared, but provide instructions for your guests. Be ready to alleviate their fears before they get to you. What will happen if, you know, the hurricane hits, and just be very proactive with your guests, responsive. Take away any anxieties they may have about being in your home, and how prepared, you know, how protected they are. That your home is protected, and that they are while they're with you. One of the quotes we loved was, somebody mentioned, we were so impressed with the owner's responsiveness and compassion when we were faced with a hurricane threat. Their emergency instructions and storm kit made us feel that they cared about our comfort and safety. Again, it's not just the physical property that you're providing, it's their comfort and their feeling of safety. Finally, I just want to mention, don't underestimate the value of repeat business. We talked about it, how it is on the rise. Let's keep it that way. Let's keep this going, okay? We've had a great year. Let's keep it going at least through next year and beyond. If you can respond to some of these things that we've talked about tonight, you can have that guest experience be your top priority, and you will get repeat guests going on and on. Now, a word from our wonderful Jenny Sparrow, our marketing manager, and a few minutes about our green initiative. Jenny.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny. I'm the digital marketing manager at weneedavacation.com, but I'm also a member of our green team. And we hope that most of you are aware of We Need a Vacation's commitment to the stewardship of this beautiful and fragile area, the Cape and Islands. A few years ago, we created our green initiative, which addresses both climate change and waste control. We're on a mission to make a difference in the preservation of this sweet little sacred spot on the map, and we hope that you guys will help us in our cause. We're about to share a short video about a local woman trying to make a difference. Her name is Jess Georges, and she's the owner of the Green Road Refill, which is a mobile earth-friendly shop dedicated to reducing Cape Cod's plastic footprint. So just a quick little video here.
Hi guys, my name is Jess Georges. I'm the founder of Green Road Refill. We are an earth-friendly mobile store dedicated to reducing Cape Cod's plastic footprint. We're all about reducing that plastic in your life, so you can bring in your own bottle. We also have a free bottle basket and bottles for sale, and we refill all plant-based products ranging from body washes, lotion, shampoos, to home cleaners, laundry detergent, dish soap, and we sell lots of other great stuff for your kitchen, your bath, and your body that have that low to zero waste impact on our environment. There's a lot of horrible things going on in our ocean, and so it's up to us to make those conscious consumer choices, and Green Road Refill is one outlet to do so. Hope to see you on the Green Road.
Great. So we hope you guys will join us in this effort by reducing the amount of plastics in your rental. Consider using environmentally safe cleaning and bathing products and more, so you can increase your listing's green amenities. So in addition to Jess's mobile shop that we just saw in the video, she's going to be opening a store in the Cumberland Farms Plaza in Brewster in November. So stay tuned for that. We're hoping to strengthen our partnership with her, and that everyone will get involved in this part of preserving the Cape and Islands. Thanks.
Thanks, Jenny. Just to wrap up, this is our schedule. If you haven't registered, you can register for these back on the same owner series page, or you can find the link in your homeowner center. Apologize for running this a little bit late and shrinking some of the QA time, but happy to extend for those that want to stay on for a few more minutes. We can certainly answer a few questions. So with that, I am going to stop the share so we get back to seeing speaker view. Happy to answer any questions here. If you want to put them into chat, we can certainly put them answer the questions in the chat window. If there's anything that we did not cover or covered maybe a little bit too quickly, happy to answer them. or if we kind of hit that magical hour. There we go.
Does everybody realize that the chat room, Lauren and Tori have been adding some helpful links to different topics that we've discussed?
There's a question on the green approach to mosquitoes. I'm not sure how to answer that one.
Hey,
I know that mosquitoes were certainly a challenging experience, especially for the Outer Cape this summer, due to all the early rain that we got. But I'm not sure what the green.
we'll
We can research into some of that. The dates for the Cynthia, the dates for oh yeah, the dates will show up. We have the pricing analysis or pricing deep dive is next Thursday night, same time. And then the listing optimization one is on Tuesday, October 26th. And then when's the vineyard? Because I believe
The 2nd, November 2nd.
November 2nd. So I believe Cynthia's on the vineyard. And Nantucket, for those on Nantucket, we'll be having a specific one for you as well on beta November what?
10th.
10th. So
There's a link to it now on your homeowner centers. So if you haven't registered, feel free to just go in and click on the link on the top of your homeowner center. If you're here, you may have already registered for those anyway, but. So I think I'd put everybody to sleep.
no questions.
No, there's a lot of
yeah,
information.
there we go. What other resources, Beta, would you recommend for storm preparedness?
Well, we actually have a web page. I don't know if it's available all the time. Maybe we can figure out a way to make that available to our homeowners, but with all sorts of resources and things. But you know, it's kind of like having, I think of it as kind of like having a fire plan, like all of us in our homes should have, you know, with the kids, what you do if there's a fire. You should really think about that. If a hurricane comes, you know, do you have batteries? And I hate the idea of candles because of the fire worry, but hurricane lamps, gasoline, what do they call them? Kerosene lamps or something like that. You know, escape routes, all these kind of things. Have it in your head for your own families, and then think about how you would handle a guest in your home if something like that happened when they were there or before they got there.
Yeah, I would add to the kind of disaster plan. In my experience this summer, I actually took a vacation the week that hurricane was approaching, and so it was supposed to, I believe, hit on Sunday, and so we arrived on Saturday. But I got a call on Friday from my host to let me know that they were aware, that they, you know, what to, you know, how to prepare the rental if needs be, and I had an opportunity to ask them questions, and they offered, if you need to get batteries or candles or anything like that, you know, just save the receipts and we'll reimburse you. It's just the fact that they reached out, in advance to let them know that they obviously that they care about our well-being. You know, some people may have delayed a trip by a day to see where the storm was going. You know, just open up the lines of communication. I think that's the best number one best plan, to know. You make sure that obviously you have emergency contact numbers and all that stuff. But I think communication for any sort of emergency is critical and shouldn't be overlooked. So that
it actually
certainly very appreciative of that.
It actually enables homeowners to kind of turn a situation around. They can handle something by not handling it, by not communicating or showing any sympathy at all. Or they can be the opposite. And we heard, I was on guest review duty at one point this summer around that time, and the appreciation from guests about how, I mean, it's like they made best friends because of that difficult situation, and they say, we can't wait to come back next year because of it. So you have to kind of think of it as an opportunity, as long as you're prepared ahead of time, and as Jim says, you communicate with them. keeping flashlights. I saw somebody said, yeah, definitely. Okey doke.
All right.
Well, I think if people asked questions when they registered and we haven't gotten to them yet, we will either respond to you privately or include it in an upcoming webinar, because we do want to respond to your individual questions, even if they didn't relate to, and we didn't have time tonight. And of course, we're always here for you if you want to email or call, which many of you do.
All right, Joan, you ready to wrap it up then for tonight?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Congratulations again, everybody, on a successful season, and let us know if we can help out with anything, okay?
And so, yeah, and we will, again, hopefully see many of you in the next upcoming
Next week.
sessions. And after these webinars are over, I expect we'll also reintroduce our virtual meetings and have a more open back and forth forum after our webinar series is over. So all that for the rest of this fall season, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. So thanks everyone for coming.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, you guys.